Wait. One text, he says, "Will you marry me?" And you say yes, and you get married that day.
We got married that day.
Wow. Welcome to Silently Bleeding Hope for the Pastor's Wife. I'm your host, Jan McIntyre. Today, I'm excited to introduce to you my new friend, Brenda Perkins. Welcome, Brenda.
Thank you, Jan.
I am excited because some of our stories are like really, really sad and then triumphant. And this one is that way, but it gets triumphant pretty quick. And it's such a unique, intriguing story. So let's just jump right in. So, Brenda, you told me that you sent one text to the man you're now married to, and then you guys got married. There was no dating. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, and you're before we get into that, you're Brenda Perkins.
Yes.
So was your maiden name Perkins?
No, that was my first husband. His last name was Perkins.
Okay. Tell me a little about that.
Okay. I met Joel when I was 15 years old, and he was 17. We met at a youth rally, and we got married. I was 18, and he was 20 in August of 2020. He got COVID. Actually, my husband's twin brother, Lowell, got COVID, was in the hospital, and he was very sick. And a few days later, my husband and I got COVID. And but while Lowell was in the hospital with COVID, you know, it was a hard time because you could not be with your family members.
Right.
And we would FaceTime him. He was so lonely in the hospital. And at night, a couple nights in particular, we FaceTimed him. And one night we played a couple worship songs for him. Joel was laying on the couch. I was sitting by him on the floor. And then we had Lowell FaceTimed. And one song that was pretty new to us was The Goodness of God. And so we played that song for him. And he mouthed the words. And, you know, he was struggling in the hospital. And then a few days later, we got COVID, and we weren't really worried about it. And my husband was on oxygen at night. His oxygen levels would drop at night. And so we already had an oxygen machine at home, so we felt like we were going to be fine. But Joel's oxygen, he kept struggling with that. And so finally, the doctor wanted him to go to the emergency room. And the plan was to keep him in the hospital overnight just to get his oxygen regulated. Well, it seemed like every day something would come up. They needed to keep him a little longer. 2 weeks later, he passed away in the hospital.
Now, which one?
My husband.
Your husband, Joel. Passed away.
Passed away. Lowell, during that time, he got out of the hospital. He improved, got out of the hospital, but Joel passed away. And that was a very tough time.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Let me ask you this. So Lowell was y'all's pastor.
Yes.
And you guys were very involved in ministry in the church, teaching
Yes.
classes, that kind of thing?
Yes, we were youth sponsors, involved on the worship team, just different ministries in the church, very active. And Lowell was our pastor.
Now, did Lowell have a wife?
No, Lowell had never been married.
Never been married. Wow.
No, he had never been married. But then Joel passed away in 2020. The whole time, you know, for 3.5 years, I grieved the loss of him. You know, it got to where after about a year or so, I thought, you know, I knew that I wanted to get married.
That speaks volumes of the beautiful marriage you had.
Being by myself, I decided that I was ready to move on. I thought that the Lord would just drop somebody into my life, and that didn't happen. And so I thought, well, I probably need to do something. And so I started talking to a man that was in another town, and he was a minister. He was just a very nice man, and he had a lot of the the characters that I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
He had the same belief system that I had, and so I thought, maybe I should meet him. I knew that I had feelings for someone else, and that I needed to find out if he had feelings for me before I took that next step.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, I didn't want to hurt anybody. And so I decided one Friday morning that if I was going to get married again, that I needed to do something. And so I sent a text to my brother-in-law, Lowell, and
Wait. Your brother-in-law, Lowell, and that's Joel's twin brother.
Joel's twin brother.
And he was not married.
He was not married.
Never been married.
Never been married. 59 years old. I'm not really sure when I started having feelings for him, but it just kind of eventually happened. And for a while, I kind of pushed those aside because I thought our family's going to think this is weird. Our church is going to think it's weird. And plus, I didn't think he had feelings for me in that way. I knew he loved me.
Right.
We were family. But there's a difference there.
Yeah.
And so I sent him a text one Friday morning, and I told him that.
Could you read the text for us?
Yeah, again. I said, this may seem very strange and out of the blue, and I may regret revealing this to you, but I need to tell you that I have feelings for you. I don't expect anything in return, and I don't want to make things awkward, but I also don't want anything to happen to one of us and you not know how I feel. I have prayed that if it's the Lord's will for me to remain single for the rest of my life. And by the way, I'd been reading scripture, and Paul would say about the widow that he thinks she would be happier if she remained as she was. I didn't agree with Paul on that.
I don't blame you.
Just as a side note there. And I kind of resented that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I had prayed that the Lord's will for me to remain single for the rest of my life, that he would take the desire to be married away. But he hasn't. So I've decided to try to move forward with my life, whatever that means. And this is the first step. And I put a heart at the end of that, and I sent it.
And he texted you right back?
No.
Oh.
No, he did not. And after about an hour or so, I thought, well, maybe the text didn't go through. So I checked my phone. It went through. And I thought, okay, this is not a good thing. He has not responded. And so a couple hours later, I was in my daughter's kitchen talking to my kids. I told them about everything that was going on, about me possibly meeting this other guy. And then I also told my son, because he didn't know that I had sent a text to his uncle revealing how I felt about him. And my kids were so supportive. They're like, we want you to be happy. And so, they were fine with either thing. So just about that time, I see Lowell walking down the driveway.
Oh my goodness.
And so I was terrified. I was ready to hide. I'm like, what have I done?
I bet your heart was jumping out of your chest.
Yeah. And we didn't know what to expect. But he came in and he said, kids, I need to talk to your mom. She sent me this crazy text this morning. Of course, they knew all about it. And, it took me a lot to send that text, that I was putting a lot on the line.
Yeah.
But so we went downstairs and talked about everything. I told him about this other guy that I had planned, was possibly going to meet, but I had to find out how he felt about me because my heart was with him. So we were talking about everything, and he was like, so are you wanting to get married? And I'm like, yes. I'm like, in my head, I was saying, duh. Yeah, how could you not know that? And so anyway, he was like, well, would you marry me? And I said, yes. I was kind of getting frustrated because I'm like, how could you not know this? So just within a few minutes, we decided to get married that day.
Wait. One text, he says, "Will you marry me?" And you say yes, and you get married that day.
We got married that day.
Wow.
So we were married just about 5 hours later. It, it was a hurried evening, afternoon. I had to pack because I was moving out, and I just had a little bit of warning. So Lowell called his associate pastor, and he said, "Would you meet me at my office at 5 o'clock?" And he said, "Brenda and I are getting married." And of course, his associate pastor did not believe him, and his associates, they knew that he had always said, if I were going to marry anyone, it would be Brenda. Now, not always. I mean,
right after
Joel passed away, after some time.
Right.
But so we met at 5 o'clock at the church, and we're married. And
so you didn't even have time to get a special dress or anything.
No, not a ring, nothing. So we got married, and then that was on a Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
And then everyone was silent about it. Anyone who knew kept it quiet until Sunday, because we wanted to announce it to our church.
Before you tell about announcing to your church, did you not tell me when we were talking earlier, did you tell me that Lowell called his dad? What was his dad's response?
His dad said that he had been praying for that.
Wow.
And one side note to that, the day after Joel passed away, his mother fell and broke her arm, and she had to go into the nursing home. Even through my grief and stuff, I wanted to do something for the Lord, but I couldn't be in front of people. The Lord gave me a ministry to her during that time.
Wow.
I would go to church on Sunday morning. I'd go to first service, and then I'd go to the nursing home for second service, and I would watch church with her, because she wasn't even able to turn the television on by herself.
Right.
I was thrilled that he was happy for us, and he had prayed for that.
One more question before we talk, because I want to hear how the church responded. Now, you said that Joel and Lowell were twins. Were they identical twins or fraternal?
They were fraternal.
Because I know everybody's going to wonder.
Yeah.
That probably made it a little easier for you.
Right. And, the first thought for people that hear that I married my husband's twin brother, think that they would have been identical, but no, they weren't.
Yeah. Okay, so how did your church respond? How did he tell it to the church? What were you doing? Were you terrified? Were you excited? What tell me about that Sunday.
I was very excited. I was very happy, so I really wasn't nervous. I was on the worship team, and Lowell came up and he said, "I have a very special announcement. I want to introduce you to my beautiful new wife."
Oh.
And when I stepped forward to meet him at the front, I mean, people were in shock. They
was it like quiet for a second?
For a second, and then it was a loud clapping and yelling, and it went on for an extended time.
Wow, they were so happy for you guys.
They were.
A lot of them did they not share with you later that they thought y'all would be a great match for each other?
Yes, many people. I can't even count how many people had thought that. Even family members had thought that, but didn't tell us.
Well, it's probably good they didn't, because that could have been awkward too. But
right.
But when God is in something, he does it well. And for your children to be great with it, for his father to say, "I've been praying for this," God was in this.
Yes.
That is so beautiful. Brenda, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. And for that, pastor's wife, well, before I say that, I do want to say I've had the awesome privilege to be at your church this weekend. Thank you for that. I've so enjoyed being at y'all's Gather Conference for Women, and being here to support Julie Davenport, who is actually over Silently Bleeding Hope for the Brokenhearted. I've interviewed her, Brenda, and I'll leave a link where you guys can watch that. You're going to want to watch that. What was so beautiful about her sharing this weekend is her and her husband pastored this church.
Yes.
And her story was difficult.
Right.
But I love how she shared, and she had already told me how this church just loved her through all the pain she walked through.
Yes.
And story after story I've heard this weekend, how the church rallies around whoever is hurting. A lot of times they say Christians are the only ones who shoot their wounded. Your church is there to lift up the brokenhearted. I love that.
Yes. Yes.
So thank you for that. So for that wife, that pastor's wife, that maybe they're widows or maybe they're walking through a really difficult season, what word of encouragement could you speak to her about today?
I would say just get as close to God as you can. Get in the Word. He will bring scriptures to your mind to encourage you. He will remind you in song. It seemed like when I was going through the difficult time, every worship song was to me.
Wow.
And He will help you through the difficult time. But you have to be determined to let Him lead you and trust in Him.
Can I ask you one more question?
Sure.
Brenda, when you were walking through the 3.5 years of grief, did you stay home from church or did you go to church? What was that journey like for you?
The first month after he died, I just wanted to hide.
Right.
I just could not face people. And so I watched online for a few weeks. But then it was Lowell's birthday, October 18th, and he was preaching that morning. And I knew that would be a difficult day for him to be preaching on his birthday. This was the first year he didn't have his twin brother.
Yeah.
And I told my kids, I said, we've got to be at church. We've got to be there for him. And so I texted him and I said, we will be there. We'll be in the balcony. And he's, I was still kind of afraid to face people. But we were there and supported him. The Lord got us through that time. But after that point, I continued going to church. I was involved with everything they had. And
do you recommend that? I mean, was that helpful for you?
Oh, yeah. I think staying busy is very important, because if you sit alone and your thoughts will they'll drive you crazy. Yeah. You can't stay there. I tell you what, you don't want to stay in grief.
Yeah.
You don't want to hang on to that.
But
the Lord can heal you.
Thank you so much, Brenda. I so appreciate you being with us. Thank you for watching, Sweet Woman of God. If you need prayer, I'll leave our Silently Bleeding email down below. Reach out. We will be glad to be praying for you. God bless. Thank you for watching Silently Bleeding, Finding Hope for the Pastor's Wife. I look forward to connecting with you. Feel free to leave me comments down below and make sure and subscribe. If you want to know every time a new video is coming out, hit the bell. I would be so delighted if you would also hit the like button, and feel free to share this video with anyone you know that this would encourage. Blessings, my friend.